Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a very exciting conversation with this brilliant woman that I'm very, very pleased to have said that I know for quite a number of years now. I've been watching her grow and just take over the photography scene with her incredible eye. We've known each other for quite a few years, and I have to say that be able to speak to Michelle Hunder is an absolute pleasure. So, welcome to the She Is Women in Conversation series. Michelle, how are you doing, sweetheart?
I'm good. So it's such a pleasure to be here. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for making time for our conversation. I know, obviously, me being in Sydney, you being in Melbourne. Yes, we're in Australia, but right now the states that we're in feels like the Game of Thrones. Right now, people are not allowed in, they're not
Yes.
allowed out. It's just a crazy time with lockdown. And we
Yeah.
spoke a little bit briefly beforehand, being creatives. Lockdown has had positives, but real negatives as well. You're a
Mhm.
photographer. How has lockdown affected you from last year to this year?
Yeah. So I guess anytime that we go into a lockdown, photography is not allowed at pretty much at all. And last year, so that was like maybe close to 7 months that I didn't shoot last year, which was it's such a blur now. It's so weird to kind of look back on that time, and even this year it's just time has gone so quickly but so slowly at the same time. I don't even know how to explain that, but it's just like some weird phenomenon that we're all experiencing. So yeah, so I haven't been able to shoot. It's weird though, because as soon as we come out of lockdown, it's like every single time I've gone from 0 to 100. So it's like you're kind of trying to play catch up, and my brain like isn't working properly because you've just been, you haven't been firing on all
Yeah.
cylinders like you usually would be and stuff like that. So it was taking a little while to get back into the routine, and I felt like I was just getting into it before these last bunch of lockdowns. I was really starting to hit my straps, and I was feeling like creatively it was all coming back. And
Yeah.
so it's really bizarre. It's a really weird time. I've tried to stay as busy as possible. I how my anxiety presents is in a very productive way. So I have to do things. That's
Yeah.
how I cope. So I've been doing a lot of things, which has been great, and things I probably would never have done if it wasn't for COVID and lockdowns and all this time at home. The probably last month, I would say the not shooting has really got to me.
Mm.
I've been granted a few little exemptions to do little bits and pieces, which has been really great, but it's really tricky. It's when you love what you do, like when you feel like it's your life purpose and you get so much pleasure out of it. It's just so fulfilling.
Yeah.
Um, there's like a grieving process, I think, that has to happen when that's taken away for reasons that are completely out of your control. So, I've gone through all of the ups and downs, and
Mhm.
I think I've pretty much coped relatively well, I think. But now it's just, yeah, now I'm kind of like, all right, I get my second vaccination on Monday. I'm like, all right, let's go. I'm
I
ready. Can we
feel
just
you.
can we just get out there now?
I feel you. And
Yeah.
you know what? You've said it really, really well. You couldn't have said it any better. It does feel like a grieving process for a lot of entertainers, artists, just the
Yeah.
creative mind that it's out of our control. It couldn't be a better way to say it. Being a
Yeah.
DJ for myself, I think last year that I lost about 70% of my income within the hour that the promoter,
Yeah.
right, your gigs are done. I literally saw the deck of cards and
I
cash just literally
yes.
escaping. And
I remember deleting big chunks in
yeah,
one day, just like, oh, that's so that whole block of touring's gone, that block of touring's gone. Like it was so surreal.
it is. And I think for me, I sat there and I thought, wow, what what a dispensable um, position we're in, right?
Mm.
And what a luxury it is to also have creatives, right? So a
Yes.
DJ
Yeah.
a lot of the time, and I would probably liken that to being a photographer, is needed. It's you're needed to capture the moments in life. You need it for your artistry. You need it for your vision. But when something like this happens, we're often the first to go. Our jobs are the first to go, and it's you look at us as if, wow, it's a luxury to be able to say, I'm going to book that photographer for this session, or I'm going to get that DJ. And so it kind of made me look at everything from such a different perspective for when things do go back to normal. But I don't know about you, but for myself, it's a slippery slope with getting back to DJing, because we don't know what the nightlife scope is going to be like, and or a
Yeah,
person sneezes
exactly.
and God forbid, everything's shut down, you've got to go home. So it's just, it's a
Yeah,
really tricky time. It's really tricky.
it is. And I mean, anything to do with live music obviously is very similar to DJing. It's like, we're under the same umbrella. So it's where there's venue capacity restrictions and all of those things taken into consideration. Tours can't happen because venues that they can't obviously make enough money to warrant booking tours and stuff like that. So it's such a tricky time, and it's hard to know where the light at the end of the tunnel is. They're saying it's going to be when we kind of hit certain targets, but then I read an article today that was saying that we might still have lockdowns next year, and that just sent me into a spiral. So I don't know what's happening. I'm looking into all options. I mean, I'm looking into possibly going overseas. I'm like, I definitely can't do another 6 months like this. So I'm just going to have to look at kind of relocation options now. I've been pretty good just being here in Melbourne and settling and doing as much as possible, but it's very hard to watch the rest of the world opening up and us not. That's really, really tricky.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, just to obviously give the viewers a little bit of a snapshot of what it is that you do. You are more than just a photographer. And when we say photography, we don't just mean, taking cute little baby photos of kids. And it's not that kind of photography. We're talking
no baby photos.
No baby cutesy stuff happening here with Michelle, right? So I was first introduced to you obviously through the hip hop channels, and
yes,
your incredible eye for taking photos of some amazing hip hop artists back in the day. That you still obviously are very active with that, obviously, once the world opens up again. But your images went on to grace one of the first ever hip hop photography books put out here in.
I think it was the first book. Yeah. The National Sound and Film Archive contacted me because they were saying there was such a lack of documentation of hip hop in the country that they wanted to include it, because it's one of these really cool, vibrant pockets of subculture, but there wasn't that much documentation of it. So yeah, it was definitely the first book or anything of its kind, kind of documenting what the scene looked like at that time, which is cool. It's really cool.
Well done to you. Brilliant work. It's called Rise. And I remember the huge community push behind it. Obviously, you captured not only international artists, but obviously Australian focused sort of artists as well. It was fun. You set up a GoFund for it initially to get all that rolling. So there was this huge, exciting machine behind it, and I just remembered looking at that, going, "Wow, that was next level." So from that, your photography or artistry in photos has just grown in dimensions. Can you give us a little bit of a snapshot of what the journey's been like for you from that point on?
Yeah. I guess after Rise, a couple of things happened. One was that I definitely looked at my folio and realized that it was really male dominated, which I hadn't really thought of that, because I was just documenting and I wasn't really thinking about, I don't really go through life thinking about gender that much, to be honest. And I've never really looked at my gender as being a disadvantage at all. And I've got really great relationships with men and always have. So when I was documenting hip hop, it's like, yeah, it's a male dominated scene, but it wasn't weird to me. And I was, to be honest, so welcomed with open arms when I first started shooting. And I think for a number of reasons. I know that I knew the culture of hip hop because I've been so immersed in it my entire life. So I knew what it looked like, and I knew when I was documenting it, I guess the images that I were producing really resonated with the artists. So it kind of just clicked. And so when I finished doing Rise, and I was like, oh my God, it's just my whole folio is just dudes. Like, and it was really subconscious, but I was like, okay, well, I definitely need to work with more women. Like, what's going on here? It was more from just a really diverse folio, like looking at just what my folio looked like. So that kind of sparked my interest into looking at like, why was that there not that many women like making hip hop? And then it was kind of like, but it's not even just hip hop, it's kind of the whole music industry. And it really sparked an interest in looking at why the gender disparity is like that. And that kind of launched me into my next project, which was called Her Sound, Her Story. And that was a photographic and documentary project as well. So it was a huge 4-year project that I did with my project partner, Claudia. And that just took me into a whole new world, really, because it was outside of hip hop. It was kind of really this huge project that, you know, the entire industry was really got behind, and ended up being, you know, had quite a bit of an impact when we released that documentary in 2018. So that was kind of the next step. And then kind of at the same time, I started working with a young artist named Ruel, and with that creative team as well. So there was a lot happening kind of around 2016, 2017, 2018, which really, I guess, forced my work to be at a level, if that makes sense. Like it's not only did it have to be Australian class, but it had to be world class. When you're starting to work with someone like Ruel, that's got this, you know, huge potential and huge following. So that's kind of where I really noticed that, you know, through the creative team of working with Ruel, we were all just pushing each other to make everything look so polished, so from an international perspective. So it really elevated everything.
Absolutely. I was going to say to you, with all of those things that you mentioned, congratulations. I mean, the documentary sort of project, when I saw you doing that, I was so excited to know that there was a works like that out there. I haven't been able to see it though. Was it a touring project? Or
it was
right?
Yeah, I can send it to you, by the way, so you can watch it. Yeah, I will. It's we actually ended up kind of distributing it ourselves. So we did our own cinema release, and we kind of, the way that we did it was we kind of toured it like you would do a tour, but we kind of took it to different cinemas and did our own events, which is a really weird way of doing it, but it was a great way to connect with the community and get, you know, we would do Q&A panels and stuff, so we could actually really speak to women on the night. It was really beautiful. Like, it was such a life-changing project in just the way that I looked at everything, to be honest. But it also incredibly hard work. There's only 2 of us on that project, and anyone that's ever had anything to do with documentary filmmaking will know that's virtually impossible. And also no budget, so like 0 money. And you know, I'm really proud of what Claudia and I were able to produce, because I don't think if you watch it you would be able to tell that it's 2 of us, or that we had no money. Like, we just put our entire heart and soul and every ounce of our creative ability into that project. So yeah, it was really cool.
You're such a trailblazer, Michelle. I'm so excited to be able to talk to you about all these incredible things you've been doing. I've been watching from the wings all the amazing things you've been achieving. You did mention Ruel as well. That was epic, you know, to watch his rise as well. I mean, he's only quite young, and for his
Yeah.
stardom to come with him. You've been on that journey as
Yeah.
well. Photography taking you on the road, what's it like being a tour photographer, especially within the music industry? There'd be some
Yeah.
heavy moments, and you're capturing them, right? I mean, are people on
I
guard?
think, look, I think because Ruel is so young, or what, you know, was when we were touring, it's been, we've obviously been off the road for a couple of years, but when we were touring, he hadn't even turned 18 yet. So it was from the ages of 14 to kind of 17. And so in terms of like, I guess the stories that you'd hear about wild tours, I mean, we had an underage child with us, so it was definitely not wild, but I love touring. It was a goal of mine since I started photography, was to go on tour, and it's just I really adapt to that kind of lifestyle. I actually, when I had to grieve what I was missing the most, it really is touring, because I just that not knowing where you're going to be the next day and just waking up on a bus and you just peer out the window and you're like, where are we? Like, I miss it so much. I miss the tour family. I miss documenting Ruel, like all of those moments. And it's such a privilege. Like it really is. Like, I truly feel like it's the best job in the world. I feel so grateful that I've been able to do what we've been able to do so far, which was, we did like 2 tours to Asia, 2 American tours, a tour to Europe, and you know, this was all on the cards for 2020 as well. So hopefully now 2022, you know, all this stuff picks up again. But it's really hard to explain because I don't think it suits everybody. Like it's a very transient, bizarre way of living, and very, you know, you're living out of a suitcase, but I love it. Like I love it. I really do. I miss everything about it. I miss sound checks. I miss listening to Ruel sing. I miss just documenting those live shows and traveling around the world. So yeah, it's amazing. It's like I said, it's such a privilege to be doing that.
Even though I'm not privy to that side of sort of, you know, even being like on tour, the way you've painted it, it does. I mean, there's that sort of nomadic wanderlust sort of, you know, thing that you can connect to it. And I think just having camera in hand to capture random moments, I know that is where a lot of the beauty lies in a lot of the work that you do, is you capturing a lot of artists. I mean, I've obviously seen a lot of your work. There's just a beauty in that truth, and in those moments when they're either on or they're not, you're still able to capture.
Yeah, I like the off moments, you know, like that's where I think the biggest privilege lies as a music photographer, is not the stage stuff, because so many people are privy to that, and that's cool. Like I love shooting stage stuff, it's so fun, but it's actually the backstage, in between, you know, private moments that nobody else gets to experience, that I love documenting the most. It's like that fly on the wall. You get to take fans into a place that they don't usually get to see. And yeah, I just love that. Or, you know, if we have a day off, I've always got my camera with me. So we might be shopping in Amsterdam, or, you know, wherever we are, and you're just able to document those moments. Just that journey is just, it's so fulfilling. It's just, I can't really describe it. So, and the weird thing is too, like, you know, you know, I've been with my husband for 23 years. We've been together forever, and you know, we have such a great relationship, and a lot of the time, you know, we would be apart because either he's away for work or I'm away for work and stuff like that. But it's weird how that just became part of how we existed as well. And like there was a cohesion in the fact that we were separate and then come together, and then, you know, if there's something in that was always it kept things really awesome and fresh and stuff like that. Mind you, we've been together so long, and this is the longest I think we've been in the same house, and we actually are still getting along really well, which is quite wild. So listen, we're doing okay.
I can definitely counter that, because I'm a military spouse, right? So my husband
Oh,
is now
yes.
retired, ex-Navy. We've been together for 16 years. And for the last 5, since he's moved back to Australia, it's been a concentrated amount of time that I've had to get used to him not leaving.
You have to get used to,
That's it. The
yeah,
cohesion and the separation, and it's a very
yeah,
blessed thing, and it only happens to those that are rare. We just it's a rare breed of people that can
yeah,
exist in that fashion.
yeah,
So I totally
yeah,
know what you're saying. I think now it might feel a bit weird if you was to ever go away again. I mean, he's
yeah,
retired now,
yeah.
but because we've gotten used to the togetherness,
Being together again,
but
yeah.
it takes some time. It takes some time.
It does. I know every time I come from tour, like home from tour, there's always that just weird, like, my husband's always like, I have to let you know where I am. Like, you've been away for 6 months. Like, it's just like getting used to being each other's presence again,
Yeah,
and vice versa. It'll probably be really weird when one of us go, but we've always existed like that. And I do agree, it's a rare breed, but there's something really, I don't know, something really awesome, and
it
I
is.
don't know, it strengthens the bond almost. I don't know.
I
Like I
agree
said,
with you.
23 years, we're doing something something
You're
right.
doing well. You're doing very well. Kudos to you for that. But it
Yeah.
is, it really does. I mean, there's been a lot of women that I've spoken to throughout my years, and they've looked at me like, how do
Oh,
you even
yeah.
cope? And then having
Yes.
kids on top of it. But I think
Yeah,
being an independent woman helps to start. So being somebody who doesn't depend on anyone, but can still
absolutely.
have connections with people, again, it makes those relationships easier to maintain. And the comings and
Yes.
goings, it's like, you meet somebody and that's who they are. It's not for you to say, well, no, no, you stop doing that because I'm here. Well, you can't stop the person being an individual and being who they are, but if you can be an individual together, and it sounds nuts saying
Yes.
it, but
No, but I resonate so much with what you're saying. It's so, so true. And I've had the same conversations with people who are just like, either they'll say, how do you do it? Or how does he let you do that? And I'm just like, what? What do you
living
mean?
in the 1800s, how does he let me? How dare you?
I mean, he's the most happy for me. Like,
Yeah.
even just talking about the situation at the moment, I'm like, hey, like, I might need to go. I'm not coping at the moment. He's just like, because he's got really solid work here at the moment. He's just like, if you need to go, do your thing. Like, you need to, worry about yourself and worry about your own mental health and your own sanity as a creative as well. And it's been 2 years at home now. So he's really supportive, and I know that I'm really fortunate.
No, that's
Yeah.
what's up. I mean, look, and if everybody has, and I always say this, especially to like newlywed, friends of mine, you have the power and the gift to create your marriage the
Yeah.
way in which it will suit you. It's not based on anybody else. You've got to build what works for you. And I know
Yes.
obviously having children changes the transiency of it all. For
Yes.
me,
We don't have children, so I think that would be I mean, we've chosen not to have children, and I think we're both really aware that that would have really changed the dynamic, because there's somebody that needs to sacrifice being not doing something for a period of time. So, for us, that was a decision we decided we weren't going to do. Props off to you for being able to do that, for doing that as well, because that is like a whole other thing that is just,
it's a different animal, but you know what? Communication is really vital with relationships that where one is either away all the time, or like in your case, the pair of you both have jobs that take you away, and you
yeah,
make it work, Michelle. I just, the one thing I don't like is people making excuses for how they wish to live their lives because they've got kids or they've got this or that.
yeah,
Work
yeah,
around it. Yes, it might not be
yeah,
as sort of off the seat of your pants type of vibe when you've got a kid, but
yeah.
you work it in, you work around it. You don't ultimately stop living because you've bred a human. You can still go on living.
Absolutely.
This is So these are conversations that are so important to have.
I
But I think,
completely agree.
yeah, but I think that's awesome that the two of you have that.
Yeah.
Very awesome. I love it. Now, just so that people kind of get, you know, a really good understanding of the passion that you have for photography is obviously something that you've had for many years. How did you get into it? How did you first realize that this is what you
Yeah, it's so weird. So my husband actually noticed that I like documenting things, not from a photographic point of view, but more from like a memory point of view. So if we were at a party, they had a little point and shoot, and I wasn't thinking about being a photographer. I just wanted to kind of capture moments, and I used to love getting them up on Facebook after a party and just being able to remember those times. And yeah, he for Christmas one year bought me a DSLR, and I was just like literally so shocked. I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, I've just noticed that you really like documenting things. Like, you know, I wanted to buy you a camera. And I guess he didn't realize he was going to spark like this whole like life purpose. It's weird. Like he's done that a couple of times to me. It's quite strange. I guess when you've been with someone literally half your life, I guess they start seeing things in you that you don't see in yourself. But
he knows your spirit very well.
He does. And yeah, so and at the same time, I was going through a massive personal business failure. And it kind of just aligned with not really knowing what I was going to do with my life. And I just picked up this camera, and I was loving taking photos. And I was like, just felt this passion that I hadn't felt in so long. And I just remember Java saying to me, like, you know, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And he's like, why don't you just give this a go? Like, why don't you just see what happens? And I kind of just from there, I just literally threw myself into it. And I was just kind of like, well, I kind of have to make this work, because I don't want to go back to a 9-to-5 ever again. I know that doesn't suit me. And I couldn't imagine starting the corporate ladder again. I was just like, it's not for me. So I just threw myself into it, and thankfully it just clicked. Like it just worked really. I had a business within 6 months, and I was getting work really quickly, and starting to document in the hip hop scene, and it happened so quickly. So before I knew it, I was a photographer. Like I don't really know, but I have a real passion for because people are always ask me about, do you do video? And I've made a film, and but my passion is photography. Like it is actually freezing a moment in time that's never going to be again. Like that, there's something really magic about that it's like, I'm not really a spiritual or religious person, but there's a spirituality in that, if that makes sense. There's something really, it feels bigger than me, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
It feels like magic. Like how do you capture something, a moment in time that will never ever be again in the whole entirety of the universe? Like that is magic. So it's really special, and I find it way more special than video and moving images, even though I have such a respect for it, and I have obviously worked in that space. But there's something really, really beautiful about photography as an art form.
Yeah, and it's also it's a very personal role that you're playing between yourself and artist. It's very vulnerable, because you're capturing them. It is a spiritual thing. It's a sort of transient spiritual connection through photo. When you're going through your photos, or to choose the one that's the money shot, as they say, how would you describe your work? If you didn't know you and you were looking at your photos, how would you describe?
It's so hard to describe your own work. Very bold, and it's quite in your face. Like it's very punchy. Yeah. I've always been drawn, I guess the stuff that really inspires me was like 90s hip hop imagery. Like that's the stuff and I'm still really inspired by that timeless, classic, quite simple from like, I guess a lighting or a technical perspective, but there's something in the way that you capture a person that is really, it draws you into the photo. So that's what I'm trying to aim for with my work. And it's all about the connection with the person for me. It's always been about that, so much more about the technical side of photography, or the technical stuff came later on, and the lighting and all of that stuff came later on, but it's always been about the relationship with the person and getting them to trust me. And it could be 5 minutes I have with the person, or it could be, you know, hours, but the skill is in being able to allow people to drop their guard. And that's the hardest thing about photography, and it's the hardest thing to teach about photography, because the technical stuff you can teach, but you can't teach how to make people comfortable. So that's where I think the real skill comes in, and that's the thing that I love the most, is those first few minutes of getting to know someone and getting them to be really comfortable and vulnerable and trust you is my favorite part of the shoot. And you can see it in their eyes the minute that happens, and okay, we're getting magic now, like we're in the zone.
The transfer of trust is so important. You know, I liken it to being a writer, and especially writing other people's stories, and people trusting you with their story. It's a trust, and it's a gift that I do not take for granted at all. So
same, exactly same. Yeah, don't take it for granted, because it is like, it's very, you know, often people will want to get tips off me, and I'm just like, just actually come and watch, because I don't really know how to describe what I do. Just if you observe, I think that's the easiest way, because it's very intuitive to me. It's not conscious, like I'm not thinking about what I'm doing. I'm just being me in that moment, and relating to the person as a human. And I love people. Like, I'm incredibly extroverted. I get my energy from people. I'm on the biggest high after a shoot. Like, this is why I miss it so much, because I'm not getting that dopamine that I would usually get, you know, from the end of a shoot. It feeds my spirit. Exactly. It really does. It really does. Yeah.
I totally get it. Now, you might not be on, you know, on sets or, you know, shooting at the moment, but you've gone one step further and you've created a course. So congratulations.
Yes.
Wonderful boss move.
Thank you.
Please tell us about this, because there's so many courses out there at the moment, but there's nothing. There's so many. It's almost like saturated with some people.
I know.
But yours.
I was super aware of that.
Yours is really, really. There's a lovely, unique element about yours. So please talk to us about it. How did it start, and how's it?
Yes. Yeah. So I guess it's an extension of me stepping into like a mentoring space in the last couple of years. And the first thing I did kind of before the course last year was I started online streaming on Twitch, and I started kind of creating a community and making it was like a platform where I could share my knowledge online. Whenever I started streaming, I could show people my work, and I could show them my process, and answer any questions, because I get questions constantly. I'm always getting DMs and messages and phone calls from people that want advice. And it was an extension of all of that, and kind of like, well, I know there's obviously knowledge that I've got over the last 10 years that's valuable. So, and there's nothing like this for music photographers. Like, there's a couple of like smaller things that like some aspects of it, but this is really comprehensive. This is kind of like, it doesn't really matter if you're a beginner or intermediate or even advanced. There'd be something in here that you could learn within the course. And it's so you can either do the full course and kind of learn. It's like a brain dump of everything that I've kind of gathered over the last 10 years. And again, it's not really from a technical point of view, although there is some technical tips in there. It's more the unwritten industry knowledge stuff that you just like, you know, if you go to a show and you rock up to the venue and your name's not on the list, what do you do? Or like, what are you supposed to wear? Or like, who are you supposed to contact if you want to get in touch with artists? Like all of those questions that everybody always asks. Or what do you charge for this? What are your rates? What are copyright laws? How do you ask for credit? What would you do in this situation? Just like, I just put everything that I could totally think of in these kind of sections. And then so you can do the whole course if you want, or you could just select a section to do as well. So you might want to do a module that's just on press shots. Like how do you go about starting to work with artists to do press shots? Or maybe you just want to learn the basics and it's just like a few tips and tricks for when you're first starting out. So there's little options to do like bite-sized chunks of the course as well. But yeah, it really is just a way of me passing on knowledge, because it was something that wasn't available to me when I started. It was really hard finding all of this information without making your own mistakes, I guess, and just fumbling your way through an industry that was very insular when I started. A lot of older photographers that just would not share information, kind of gatekeepery kind of vibe. And I'm very much the opposite of that. I'm very much about sharing and nurturing, and I guess wanting to create a whole new generation of photographers that just have so much more knowledge about because we don't have, there's no body that represents us. There's nowhere you go to school to learn this stuff. It's just like you have to, there's unwritten rules and all kinds of, code of conduct that nobody knows until somebody tells you off. So just trying to put that all into a course, essentially.
That's amazing. Well done. And how is it going? Have you gotten quite a few people sort of?
Yeah.
Like how's it
I
going?
think I'd actually have to check on how many registered, but it's it's getting up towards 100 people now, I would think. It's definitely over 70, I know that. So that have registered, either starting at the introduction or they might have done sections of it. But yeah, so there's, obviously the interest is there, and it's, yeah, I mean, it's really exciting. It's that I'm getting feedback from people all the time. I've made little tweaks along the way, which is really cool, as people are saying, or, sometimes people will say, oh, I'd love to see a bit more of this, or can you flesh out this a little bit more? So it's kind of one of those, it's not just set in stone. I probably will be evolving it as I get feedback and stuff, which is great.
That's amazing. Well done. That is so awesome. So people that are watching, how can they, if there's anybody that's interested, where can they go to get involved? What's the process?
Yeah, the website's just mghmasterclass.com, and there'll just be there's a front page where there's a little video that just tells you, kind of gives you a little overview of the course, and then you can scroll down to see, whether you want to do the whole course or you want to do a section that might be more relevant to you. And it's all in there. So, yeah.
Well, I'll be sure to pop the link in the description, obviously.
Yes, awesome.
Our conversation. But it's just amazing to see your rise, pardon the pun, from rise. And I'm very excited to obviously witness it from the start to where you are. And, like you've said, you've never really seen gender within what you do, but really at the end of the day, there aren't many women, especially here in Australia, that are doing what you do. And maybe there are, but they're not maybe wanting to be on a certain level or platform, or maybe your course might unearth a few more women, because the female eye is very different, I think.
It is. It really is. I've definitely noticed that. I think during, I definitely became more aware of the gender stuff when I was doing her sound, and just, even though I'd never really let it affect me personally, I think this is a personality thing, right? So I'm super competitive. For me, it's always been like, I don't want to be seen as a female photographer. I just want to be seen as a photographer and one of the best in Australia. That's always been my goal. So I don't want to be put in a box of my gender. It was always about getting out of that and going, no, I'm just a photographer. It doesn't matter what gender I am. It's just I want to be respected and known as one of the best. But I guess when I did her sound and listening to so many other women speak within the industry and hearing their stories, and you know, it is different. It really is. And like, yes, I had faced a lot of, I mean, just because it didn't personally bother me, or it wasn't an obstacle for me, because I would just, I mean, it's kind of like the more obstacles there were, then the more that I wanted to like prove people wrong, because that's my personality, right? So I'm very much about, well, if you don't think I can do it, then I'm going to show you. Not only will I beat you, I'll beat everybody else. But if you don't have that type of personality, I mean, this is the type of thing that makes women quit. So, you know, I became very aware that there are barriers. And for me, it's just about, I don't want to kind of harp on that. I want to just be a really positive role model to say it's possible. Yes, you might face these things, but it's possible. And, you know, if you want to talk about, you know, I'm just like not really big on just harping on those extra things that we have to go through, other than being aware that they happen and having a space to discuss it and not dismiss it. But also, okay, cool, we're still moving. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not going to stop us. We're still moving, keep it moving. So yeah, like I said, just being there aren't many women doing what I'm doing, and I am really proud to be a role model for younger women coming through, and hopefully there's a new generation. It's really changed in the last 5 years. There's so many more women now, and it's really inspiring. And like what you just said about the eye, there's something about female photographers that is just really special. And all of my favorite music photographers are women. There's something about how they see music. It's just really special. So there's good.
I definitely think
it's an intuitiveness, a feel. Something. It's all of that.
Absolutely. Just hearing you say that, obviously, about not wanting to be put in that sort of box of being a female this or a female that. Again, you know, bringing it back to the DJ aspect, there weren't many female hip hop DJs when I started doing what I was doing. I could name about 5, and those women are still doing it at that level to this day. But back then, there weren't many, and I again never put myself in, oh, I'm a female DJ, but I guess hip hop being so misogynistic to put you in that box, and being on the bill with all only men, you know, you did stand out because you were the only woman on that sort of on that headlining bill or on that poster week after week. But like you said, you never looked at the men in your industry as anything but welcoming, and I felt the same way with the guys in the DJ community. I never felt there was never any competition or, oh, I'm stepping on toes. It was very welcoming, like, hey, Max, what's up? You know, this, that, and the other. It was always very cool.
Totally.
Traveling was a little different. Playing overseas, I could notice a little bit more, especially in Europe. They're a little sort of funny at the time. I don't know if it was maybe because I just smashed the set before them and they didn't like it. I don't know what it was. I got the feeling. They'll get over it. You live.
That's so interesting. I love that. I even traveling overseas, like I just, you know, I've worked in America. I've worked with rappers in America. I honestly have had, I don't know. I don't even know if it, to be honest, it's been an advantage. Like it's been a point of difference and been, because like at any time, if there's been any like, oh, that, you know, how's this chick with her big cameras, whatever. I always want to prove people wrong. So if there was any shadow of a doubt in their face or whatever, it was my job to prove not only was I serious, but I'm going to take the best photos of yourself that you've ever seen. Like that's just how my mentality is. So I just make everything's a competition for me. It's just like, I will prove you wrong, and you will absolutely learn to respect me after this photo shoot. And then that's just always worked. So
that's what's up. Well done. You've got the formula. Don't break it. That's it. You've got the formula.
No.
So I guess to close. We're waiting for life to return to some sort of normal. And once life does return to some sort of normal, what is your roadmap looking like for the next couple of years? I mean, I know it's hard right now because we don't know what we're working with, but the bucket list.
If I could snap my fingers, I really want things to go back to exactly where they were at the end of 2019. I literally had the best year of my career, and I was doing exactly what I wanted to do, and I was doing so much touring and working with so many amazing artists, and I'd love the touring to come back. Like that's really the dream. If that can't happen here, then I think for me I'll probably relocate for a bit, and not permanently, but definitely do some months overseas. And I just can't be in my house anymore. Like I've been streaming online, I've started a podcast, I've written a course, like I've done all of the things that you can do from home now, and I'm like, okay, I need to be shooting. So I think I kind of literally just made that decision today. I was like, if it's looking like these, we're going to be going in and out of lockdown, then I'm going to have to go somewhere else for a bit until that settles down. And the creative juices need to start flowing again. I need to be shooting. So I just need to take back a little bit of control, I think. I just feel, and I've done everything. Like I've been really everything that we've needed to do, and I've been very supportive of, everything we need to do to save lives and stuff like that. It's very tricky watching everything go back to normal overseas and us not be part of that. Like we just feel we're very, very detached from the world at the moment.
Behavior actually sort of watching, and it's not like the rest of the world is out of the woods. They're not, but I think
no, they're not.
The approach is just different, and it's not. And I want to explain to my kids as well. Like we've got family in the US, and my husband and I have tried to get back over the last 2 years, and we haven't been able to. It's been. So we're hoping to go and visit family next summer. I mean, we've got a second son that hasn't met any of his family. So it's all those things. But we look at stuff, and my eldest is like, but there's people with pictures of Disneyland, Mum. And I said, I know, honey, it's a different world over there. We're on an island, and maybe the government thinks of an island, and with us like it's some sort of.
Well, I mean, they did. That's the thing, is like it worked. It's just the vaccine rollout. It just we could have been in a different position, and that's what's frustrating. It's like I think last year, honestly, I was like, Australia has we've clocked it. This year, I don't feel the same. I feel very disappointed and I feel very let down, actually. I feel very, very let down. And we made massive sacrifices in Melbourne and have again this year. And it feels very, very unfair now. And I think you're really starting to see in Melbourne that really bubble over, and a lot of unrest happening now, which I'm surprised that hasn't happened earlier.
Absolutely.
But it's people at breaking point.
Yeah, and there's a trigger point for everybody, and it is what it is, and we have to learn to live with it, because we cannot live like this anymore. We can't.
Exactly, that's the thing, and I think when everybody's vaccinated that want to get vaccinated, at that point, I don't know what else you can do, because if you're having lockdowns to protect people that are willfully choosing not to be vaccinated, I don't know if Australia is going to support that, to be honest. I don't think that's fair at all. So
kids have to go back.
It's very tricky.
I mean, I look at my eldest boy. He's in year 6 this year, and hasn't even been able to have his transition for high school. So Lord knows what I have to deal with for his first
year. So hard.
Then my youngest is going to kindy, and he's missed his transition to kindy. So there's a lot that parents are dealing with, and it's
so
great
much
in your little bubble, but that's not a childhood. That's not living.
Oh my God. I honestly, my husband and I have said that so many times during this. I can't even imagine that extra dimension of having a child through this would be So stressful. So stressful. Again, hats off to you.
What does Maxine do?
Amazing.
She creates a YouTube channel and then she goes back to
Yeah,
uni to study and then she writes another book and she's mothering
we're
and
so
working.
similar. We're so similar. You just have to do stuff. Hey, you just got to
We do it.
keep
That's it.
doing.
You said it's
Yeah,
handling the anxiety because I suffer
yeah,
with anxiety so bad that if
yeah.
I drown
It's
myself in
productive
water,
anxiety.
this is it. The
Yeah,
anxiety's got nowhere else
yeah.
to go but out.
But doing, I know I've always said that I'm really lucky to have that very productive form of anxiety, and that I can't, I'm not the person that's going to be, I haven't seen any of the series that anyone's talking about on Netflix. I'm like, I haven't, because I'm doing stuff. I can't sit on the couch. It makes me so anxious to do that. So yeah.
My husband has made me sit down because he's like, even when you're sleeping, you're planning. I go,
Yeah, you wake up and write notes. That's what I do. I'm like,
I have another idea for another show. And he's like, it's 2 o'clock in
yes.
the morning. Okay,
Love
write that
that.
down. I totally get you.
So good.
Listen, it's been so lovely talking to you and catching up after all these years. You're an
Yes, you too.
incredible woman, and I'm just so excited for everything that you've done, all the amazing things you're doing, and yeah, just you know what, continued blessings to you, Michelle. And I really, really hope that whatever the future brings, you continue being the trailblazer that you are, because we really need amazing women like yourself to show us the way, truly.
Thank you. I will absolutely try. That's the plan.
It's been wonderful to talk to you, and we will continue watching you from the wings.
Thanks so much. Such a great chat.
Thank you. You too. Stay safe, hon.